now the podcast starts.
Welcome to And Now the Podcast Starts, which for the first time in its illustrious history has neither Dan nor Howard, but it does have me, Ian, and also coming up, Kirsty and Stella. And we got together via Zoom to talk about DASHCAM, the new film from Rob Savage, friend of the podcast, who Kirsty used to teach back in his A-level days, I do believe. But yeah, we're very excited about DASHCAM. Which is coming out Friday, June the 3rd, which is the day of release for this podcast. So, coming up is the trailer, and then we will talk about it in a non-spoilery way. And then we recorded Gemma and Jed, the producer, talking about DASHCAM. And then after that, we'll come back and the three of us get really into all the spoilery details, which if you haven't seen this film, you should not listen to, because it really is a film that's best watched unspoiled. So, over to you, trailer.
Hi, I'm Annie Hardy, and you're watching Vancar. Another day in paradise. Hello?
Listen, I just need you to take my friend somewhere nearby.
This is Angela. Her and I taking a trip. Did you find me? Oh.
Shit.
You should go see if she's alive.
Hello? Hello? She found us! She's here!
Hey, what was that?
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god! What the f***? Look at this! Look at that!
So that was the one of the trailers, the audio of the trailer, obviously, because you're on audio, to the amazing DASHCAM. Well, I think it was amazing. What did you guys think? I've got Stella and Kirsty with me, and no Dan. For the first time ever in the podcast history.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
He is still alive. We
Yeah.
should make that be known.
Yeah, he's not just gaffer taped in the corner. What are you doing to my podcast? Anyway,
Oh, we could do anything, couldn't we?
we could. Say, cunt. I'm editing it. So it's me that's got to choose to beep it out. So DASHCAM. We'll talk about our sort of non-spoilery impressions of it, and then we'll go into our interview with Gemma Hurley, the writer, and Jed Shepherd, the producer and co-writer, and then after that, especially with this film, as we say in our interview, it's quite hard to talk about without spoilers. Because you don't really want to spoil it. So honestly, if you haven't seen this film already, don't listen to our spoilery bit. Watch the film first, because the more unspoiled you are, the better, I would say.
Yeah.
So Kirsty, I've already spoken to you when we were interviewing Gemma and Jed. So Stella, you're the person who's, I do not know what you thought of this film. What did you think?
What did I think? Well, the short answer is I really, really enjoyed it. It had lots of things that is obviously can relate back to Host. Like the pacing was excellent. At no point was I thinking, come on, let's do something. And it rattled through all of the set pieces really, really, really well. The one thing that I would say about it is, when I watched Host, I was genuinely afraid, and it was definitely right. I'm going to turn all the lights on. I'm going to check that the doors are locked, and then never speak of this again. But with DASHCAM, I think I really enjoyed it, but I didn't feel the fear as much. and it made me have more sort of moments rather than
Yeah.
I'm really, I'm looking around. I was watching Host. I was looking around my house for something, whereas with Dashcam, it was a different experience. And I think the thing that I found the most interesting or brave, or I'd like to know what you guys think about this, to have the lead female protagonist, to have her so abrasive, just like, oh, this is interesting, like, how am I feeling about this person all the way through? And I couldn't decide all the way through how I felt about her. I know how I should have felt about her, but I don't know. It was really, really enjoyable, but I slept fine the night that I watched it, whereas after I watched Host, that was not a good night's sleep.
Yeah, but I mean, Annie Hardy, and again, I think it's really interesting, isn't it, that again they kind of come down with this sort of film where the characters are kind of, or mostly, well, Annie obviously is kind of named, is playing a character of her own name and is playing a version of herself. Again, without being spoilery, it's a really interesting characterization. She seems like a really singular character in horror. I can't think of another character like her, but I might be wrong. I just might not have seen as much as I should have done. But I think certainly and again we'll talk about it as we get to spoilers, that kind of relationship that you have with her, I think is meant to be sort of a confrontational. It's meant to be an uneasy one. It's meant to be, a kind of, which way do we want this to go? Whereas the beginning, I was really sure about how I wanted it to go, and then I found sort of somewhere in the middle. I can't pinpoint where. I kind of thought, no, I'm kind of like I'm rooting for you now, regardless of all that stuff. So
yeah. Well, it's weird because slasher, kind of at its roots, kind of has a weird, it's sociopathic thing to it, in that the people that we're watching getting killed are all the cool kids that horror fans don't like. So nerds make horror films and kill cool kids that they're jealous of. It's kind of one way of reading slasher movies, isn't it? Which is why, especially when they were completely gloves off in the 70s, they were kind of misogynistic as well. Absolutely. They were kind of almost what we, incel movies, in a horrible kind of way. But then came things like Halloween, where we've got Jamie Lee Curtis and we don't want her to die, and she's cool. And so Annie Hardy, the fictional Annie Hardy, and I don't know about you, but I've never heard of her before this film.
Me neither.
A lot of what we see, as we'll see in the interview, a lot of what we see is apparently who she is in real life, up until the point where she doesn't vote Trump, and she's I don't know, they stopped short of saying she wasn't an anti-vaxxer in real life, so we think she is. But apparently she has lots of wacky ideas and wacky ways of looking at the world, and maybe in that sort of piss-takey kind of way that some people have, in that you never quite know whether they're talking shit or if they're being stone cold serious. But as a fictional character, I couldn't take my eyes off her. Like, she's just, it was so fast moving. I think if I was trapped in a lift with her, I might want to kill her. But as somebody to watch on a movie, she was kind of like, I don't know, like David Thewlis in Naked in a horror film, and a fast talking American with a rapper, absolute bullshit way of looking at the world, but really good to watch in this crazy film.
Intriguing though, isn't there? And I think there's something about the last, kind of 2 years that sort of, seem to have brought these characters into being in maybe a little bit more kind of profound way, that just not like that kind of question of how much of the character is, genuine Annie Hardy and what isn't, is really interesting. And I think that it's more intriguing if we don't know where that line is. In the same way that, when we're watching Host, the kind of believability of those, those young women playing versions of themselves in some way is interesting. And again, not horror, well, kind of horror adjacent, even, kind of Bo Burnham and Inside, that kind of sense of what is constructed, what isn't, what is the performance, what isn't. It's really you know, interesting and engaging, and a way of, you know, kind of you know, connecting with your audience in a way that you know, kind of conventional presentation of fiction, where we know there is an actor doing a performance, and this is all, you know, doesn't in the same way. There's, you know, that kind of, that distance is close, and, you know, a little bit through doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, they've nailed. They've obviously, Rob's obviously nailed, you know, what he nailed in Host, getting a performance out of people playing close to themselves, that improvisation, and that carries on into DASHCAM, just in a totally different tone.
Yeah.
And I think I agree totally, Stella. I wasn't scared of this film, but I was thrilled by it.
Yeah.
I was like, it is a trip, but and I think if you, maybe you'd be freaked out if you're the sort of person that had a low tolerance to blood and snapping bones and all the rest of it. Because I know my wife couldn't sit through Host, and she wouldn't be able to sit through this for different reasons. Because the gore would make her want to throw up.
Right.
Whereas we're kind of, that's kind of fun for us, isn't it?
Yeah. So they're going, way.
But I was there going, wanting to high five the filmmakers, but I wasn't scared per se. I was jumpy. I jumped a lot all the way through it. But you know, and I totally rate this film. But I think Host is also something special. That's like bottled magic, which is quite rightly launched. That's the Blair Witch Project, you know, for its generation. It's Ghostwatch for its generation. So it's, you know, God, we should all have a problem of having to follow up on something almost perfect. But I really do like DASHCAM. But maybe I would have liked to be, if I'm being picky, would have liked to be more scared. But that's not what the film is about, is it?
So like I say, with Host, I was genuinely chilled by it. But with DASHCAM, it was more of a, what is happening? What all the way through, and it escalates really nicely.
Yeah.
And it felt well balanced, and you know, in the age of looking at your phone and being distracted and stuff, I was on it for the whole thing. And I think these days it's quite rare for me to not start pissing around on social media.
But that said, there were some really creepy moments. You know, that I think maybe it's just our taste, but I did like it when it got quiet again, and it was, oh my God, there's a woman in the road, because it's been a bit sort of, you know, roller coaster, and I liked it when it slowed down a bit. And Host was like that a lot. Most of Host was slowed down, like, you know, like Paranormal Activity, short bursts of loudness, but mostly it was creepy, someone creaking open a door, the hair on the back of your neck standing on it, kind of thing. But
I had a conversation with Rob, and I'm not sure if it was for this podcast or just elsewhere, that we were sort of talking about kind of his sort of fondness for horror, that's sort of like kind of roller coaster rides, and this felt very much more that kind of style of, and they're chucking a lot of stuff at you, and it's like you don't quite know which way it's going to go next, but you know it's going to keep moving and keep sort of throwing things at you. And it very much, I think, in there were part of it, again, non-spoiler, but there's a part of it where they go to a particular setting which really seems to evoke that. And it made me think of a little bit of As Above, So Below, which I think has a sort of similar. You know, yes, and I know that he's a kind of big fan of that. I really enjoyed that film, so I think that's kind of, you know, it maybe explains the difference sort of tonally. But you know, he's got this, you know, different budget, isn't it, and kind of different set of circumstances. And I really, and again, not spoilery, but I'm really, you know, what we said in the interview about what, you know, I've been looking forward to seeing it with an audience. I'm also looking forward to seeing it and just paying a little bit more attention to the, you know, because it's this social media interface, the kind of commentary that comes from the viewers as, you know, as everything is unfolding. You know, I wonder what Easter eggs or what, you know, kind of additional stuff is, you know, that I didn't notice because I was too busy watching what was going on the screen.
Well, I was going to ask you guys about that, and I've written it down here, and I just scrolled question that I was trying to write whilst watching. It says, how do we feel about the text on the side? Does it add to it, or do you find it distracting? And I think the answer probably is you need to watch it more than once. Because I watched it on my laptop, so it was, you know, the screen was quite close to me. So, and it made me think of when I was watching remember Spree that was on Netflix
Yeah.
with the guy in the car, and
Yeah.
there was loads of text on that, and I watched that on my telly, which was on the other side of the room, and I was like, I can't read any of that. I'm gonna have to go and sit by the TV, and I don't want to. So I was just wondering, how do you feel about the text on the side? Do you think does it add to it, or is it
I don't
distracting,
think it was built in. I don't think if you couldn't read that or didn't read that, you missed anything.
No.
Yeah.
But then I was making notes all the way through. There's lots of in jokes for lots of horror movies
Yeah.
as you're going on, which to even mention them probably will be spoilers. But it's they weren't in the script. They weren't an essential part of the. They were things that were being added on later
Yeah.
to sort of and I think we're weirdly used to busy screens, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're used to
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
messages popping up. But yeah, with Spree, that might be a fault of Spree that we're talking about, in the things that you were supposed to be able to read, you couldn't.
Yes, because the same with other things like Unfriended or Unfriended Dark Web. Both of those films I did also watch on my laptop on a table in front of me, so I could look at everything. And I did try to watch again one of them. I can't think which one it was, either Unfriended or the second one. Tried to watch it on my TV, and I stopped it. I was like, I feel like I'm missing bits of the film. So I don't know. I don't know. I think, and I've never seen any of these. I didn't see Unfriended in the cinema. Obviously I didn't see Host on the big screen. So I wonder what this busy screen with text and other things and tabs going on, what does that play like in the cinema?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Is that they're kind of really selling this as a film that you should see with other people, and I agree. I think it's going to be really entertaining.
Everyone will be screaming.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that there's all those films that you just talked about, and Spree as well. There's a sort of and arguably what made Host special is that sort of sense of, or we're kind of watching it as if it's a Zoom call.
Yeah.
That we're having or we're part of, and so that changes the kind of spectatorship dynamic, doesn't it? Things arguably working better on the sort of smaller personal screens rather than the kind of collective big screens. It's really fascinating, I think, though.
Yeah. But yeah, having seen DASHCAM, I would like to see it in the cinema because of all of the moments that I would hope that the cinema audience would be really engaged and really loud, and be one of those films where everyone's yelling and
I think
and also if you sat in an audience, there'll be people that actually find the gore really affecting, whereas we're probably a bit blasé about that sort of thing, whereas you forget there were people who will literally be screaming and wanting to vomit at certain sections, because some of the effects are amazing.
It's so good.
Kind of just take them for granted, but some of the visual effects are really, really good. As are the cast as well. I mean, a lot of the cast of Host are sort of in it, but they're sort of in blink and you'll miss it. Although Gemma Moore is there as the girlfriend, and it was her mate Amar, who plays Stretch, that we see most of the way through the film, and he's first rate, but he's in loads of things at the moment. He's like in the new Willow. He's playing an android in something. He's just been in another Prime thing that I don't watch that's called The Wheel of Time, I think it's called, but I just delved that out of my brain. Yeah, he's in The Wheel of Time, which I haven't seen. I watched the first 5 minutes of that and thought, this looks a bit naff, and turned it off. Have you seen The Wheel of Time? No. Some people I've not seen much about it. A few people have said they're glued to it.
I think the like the end. I mean, again, adjacent now, but the end of the first episode is sort of compelling enough for me that got us to go a bit further with it. But yeah, ultimately, I sort of ran out of steam with it.
Yeah, but all the actors are just first rate, and like we said before, Annie Hardy. This is her first time doing acting, I think, and because she's a pop star or rock star, musician, singer, songwriter, rapper.
I don't know.
Of long standing, and I've never heard of her before because I'm old. But it's great seeing everyone from Host popping up. Salem Baxter, who we also love as the person who was, Doctor Who's mum in a recent Doctor Who episodes.
Was she?
Yeah. She didn't get to return in the last series. They regenerated her as someone more famous, Cracker's wife. But Salem Baxter's brilliant. Faith Kingundu. So I was just looking for her name there. Who plays the lady who's in it? We probably have to talk about more in the spoiler section. But she's fantastic and a lot younger than you might think. There's a lot going on with the makeup and effects and things in this. But but there's and also, as we say in the interview, James Swanton is back, who plays the
plays things.
Who plays the demon in Host.
Yeah.
But he's back. And we'll have to talk about what he does in the spoiler bit.
Yeah.
But
I'm feeling like that threshold of the spoilery conversation.
Yeah, I think we're ready for spoilers.
Yeah. Should we? Let's go and see what Kirsty and I chatted with Gemma and Jed just a couple of days ago, and then we'll come back. But yeah, so hi Gemma, hi Jed, and absolute congratulations on DASHCAM.
Yes,
Which I
thank
watched
you.
last night, and I think did you watch last night, Kirsty?
I did.
You did? Yeah, absolutely. I think no, it was the night before, wasn't it? But as I tweeted, absolutely mental. What a movie.
That's fair.
Yeah.
What a movie.
I think that's on the poster. Yeah.
Absolutely bloody mental.
I was definitely I went and started watching it again because I was like, what? That was amazing. And straight back to the beginning to see how it all. So one of the first things that struck me was it's quite hard to talk about because it's a trip, and it's almost like you don't want the audience to really know what they're in for. So to avoid talking about the movie whatsoever, but I'd say I'd say, how did it come out of Host? Because obviously it's got Host. Host was this amazing thing. It made me, kind of sort of, it was such an important part of lockdown for me and many other people, and yourselves. Actually, because of it, I've just been chatting to Gemma more on Twitter because of it, I hired Gemma to be in a audio horror that's coming out in autumn of my own.
Nice. Gemma's the best.
And she's just amazing. And so obviously, and she was just saying she hasn't seen the new edit yet, so she's dying to see it. But she was just saying she's she had such a good time on the shoot. And is it right that did you get in? Did Amar come from? Because she said she's friends with him. Is that how he came onto the shoot?
Yeah, so Gemma has a podcast, and I met Amma because I produced the first episode of her podcast, and so I sat there, and her guest on that day was Amma, and this guy just seemed straight away. This guy is so interesting, and they worked together on a previous movie, so they were friends, and we had him in mind for future projects anyway. So when DASHCAM came along, we were like, we need someone else with Annie in the car, otherwise she wouldn't have anyone to talk to. So yeah, he was the first pick. I think Gemma wanted Daniel Radcliffe or something, but
me, Gemma. Yeah, I was like, no. But Emma's wicked. I mean, but you're right, Ian. It's really difficult to talk about what the hell DASHCAM is. I mean, for me, it's like how to describe it. It's it's about a real person, but like Annie Hardy, who's a rock star. She was in a band called Giant Drag in the 2000s. But this is like a very blown up, horrible version of who she really is. It's like an exaggerated comic version of her almost that she's playing, which is quite a good sport to do that. So the story, stuck in lockdown in America, down on her luck, sick of everything, escapes to England to see her old band friend Stretch, who's played by Amma, and she takes an offer she should have refused, and things spiral out of control for both of them as they live stream a night of horror along the kind of creepy back roads of England, and all hell breaks loose.
You described it way better than I could. Gemma.
There we go. Got it. I didn't say anything, but hopefully you get a sense of what it's like a Hammer horror meets American road trip film. It's that kind of thing.
Can I ask? Obviously, we didn't speak to you, Jed, around Host, but we did speak to Rob, and we spoke to Gemma later about Host. And I'm just interested in like how DASHCAM came about as another kind of COVID era found footage film, and to what extent was the kind of era and the form of it, kind of a discussion, or was it just we're definitely going to do it like this? Or
well, I've known Annie for about 8 years, maybe longer, since Giant Dragon. I used to have a record label, and I was doing something with her band as well, and she's just been friends this whole time. And in 2017, I stayed with her in between going to Sundance Film Festival, where me and Rob went to with Dawn of the Deaf. Mm-hmm. So I was staying with Annie. She does this band car thing for real every day, drives around a car, raps. She does it for real. So I was her guest that day. I was doing the beats on her iPad while she rapped along, and people were giving comments. And I was like, this is like a movie, driving through LA, doing beats for Annie, who's rapping about the craziest stuff. And I was just like, And I spoke to Rob, I pitched it to Rob. I was like, Rob, you really need to check out what Annie Hardy's doing. He was the founder of Giant Drag anyway. He knew the band, same as me. And yeah, we just came up with this idea, and we pitched it. We put it into a treatment, and we pitched it before Host, before we'd actually even met Gemma. We pitched it around, but no one was biting, because it's kind of crazy, as you know. And we hadn't really proven ourselves, only in short. So we kind of understand why people didn't want it. But post-Host, there was a clamour for what we were going to do next, and we just knew we wanted to do something that was different from Host, but still set in this our current world, because I think horror is best when it reflects society and what's happening now. And so we built this horror film around Annie Hardy. And we put all of the elements we love from horror films, and Gemma brought something that we didn't have before, and yeah, it became this DASHCAM. It became something that we wouldn't have been able to make pre-Host, but because of Host, we could.
Yeah. So Gemma, I remember when we talked to you about Host, you were then asking, how do you write a script? You're sort of asking the Twitterverse, how do you write a script like the one you just written for Host?
Format? Oh, you mean how do you format a script for Screen Life?
I think you know how to write a script, but how do you format a script for this sort of thing? And was that sort of the first part of you trying to get to grips with how the hell do I actually? Is this more scripted?
Well, I mean that's such. I see what you're asking. So that was a weird thing, because for Host there was no actual official script written. It was all a sort of it's called a scriptment, yeah. And for anyone who doesn't know what that means, it's like a sort of a really detailed bullet point, basically of a plan to make a film. And then we had to how do I write this into a screenplay format? And my answer for that was don't worry about all of the details of and then on the screen we see comments and making it, because they're essentially like camera movements, which you don't want to see in a screenplay anyway. Just write it like a story, and leave all of that up to the director and the team, really. And that's what we did when we did DASHCAM. Instead of writing it scriptment on Google Docs, we did a more of a scriptment on Final Drafts. We used the collab feature. We were still on Zoom. None of us were in real life. And we were just doing it like that. And it was just, write it like a normal story and ignore all of the kind of detail about what do we see on the screen and things like that, which is just extraneous information that isn't that frightening or engaging.
In fact, I think when we wrote DASHCAM, I still hadn't met you in real life, right? We hadn't met.
No. We had a premiere. We went to the premiere of Host at BFI, so I met you once.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, but we had met once. Yeah.
We are living in it. I've still never met Kirsty.
Oh wow!
We've been doing this podcast for the whole of lockdown, and we live 30 miles down the road.
Yeah, but not actually met yet.
It's our modern way of being. But is a lot of it how like with Host, you did a lot of shooting and stapled it together. I noticed there's a lot of people with their faces blurred out. Are they genuine members of the public? That was a lot of moments that just sort of happened during the shoot, and people like the guy with his ass out riding on a bike. Was that a real person, or was that staged, or how is there a mixture of moments like that?
I think that's more a question for Rob, because we went on set. But like, I mean, that we wanted to keep this as authentic as possible. My feeling is that some people in this film are members of the public, and some people that scene with the naked guy on the bike is definitely something that really happened to Annie in real life. I think you can even watch it on her show, on
Bandcar.
On Bandcar, yeah, you can find that episode, and that really happened to her. A lot of this stuff is like things that's loosely inspired by things that Annie's like talked about or have happened to her, and we try to make it, in that sense, we try to make it as like, this is, you know, as real as possible as we can make it.
Yeah. How much of the character of Annie, as we see on the screen, is sort of your creation, and how much is making her an anti-vaxxer, giving her the Trump hat? How much was that a suggestion of hers, or how much of that came from you guys?
Good question. The version of Annie you see on screen is not the real life Annie Hardy.
It's the impression I've got from googling it.
Yeah, it is the exaggeration of her. She's obviously not going around killing monsters and stuff. She is 100% not a Trump supporter. She did not vote for Trump. I will say that. She is into weird and wonderful theories about the world in general, and she likes to give people nuggets of information. She still texts me like almost every day with a new theory about something strange and wonderful that sends me down a rabbit hole in YouTube. So she's just one of those curious people, and I think it's the type of person that we need to kind of support, because if everyone was the same, then the world would be boring. But she's a really colourful character, and she was so happy that she played along with this and let us almost create this version of herself that is larger than life. And it was a collaboration as well. So it wasn't just us telling her what to do. It was her being able to express different parts of herself, the more cinematic parts of herself, and and most of all, we just wanted to make it fun for everyone.
It's just amazing. she's absolutely, I could watch her all day. She's amazing.
I find myself kind of like at the beginning with the kind of the more political kind of aspects, kind of go, sort of partly thinking to myself, I kind of want to see her suffer in this film, which inevitably.
And isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it is. And I was really interested in how my response to her, I watched it with my husband, who also really enjoyed it, but my response to her changed through the film, and he didn't so much. So I'm kind of interested in sort of talking to him a little bit more about why, kind of he still wanted. But anyway, can I ask as well, just about the obviously the Rob tweeted yesterday, or you also put stuff out yesterday around the BBFC 18 rating, which seems in this day and age like a real achievement. Because
I never even knew that. Okay, so
I thought we were rated R officially, but I think it's 18 in the UK, maybe. Okay. I'm not sure. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So I was just wondering, like, when I was watching it yesterday, because that was sort of after I'd seen that, I, kind of looking at particular moments and going, oh yeah, that'll be why. That'll be why. To what extent was sort of going for, the kind of the top rating or the most exclusive rating in terms of age restrictions? Was that a kind of a decision that you kind of actively pursued, or was it just kind of making the film as you wanted to make it, and it just happened to kind of end up being that?
Well, I can't speak for everyone, but I know that all of my favorite films are 18 certificate films, like the majority of them. I'm obviously a massive horror fan. I like horror films that are unrelenting and don't pull its punches, and I don't think anyone had in mind like, okay, we need to hit that hard R rating. We were just like, let's make the most fun film possible. And the idea was to make the audience in the cinema have a good time and to leave thinking, wow, like that was something else. So it wasn't to get a particular rating. I don't know any filmmaker who's out there going, oh, we really need to hit a 15 right now. Those things don't matter to me, especially in the age of streaming where it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think maybe towards the other end of the scale, there's often a discussion, isn't there, around the kind of 12A and how some of the bigger studios want that 12A because it doesn't kind of.
We're never going to get a 12A with DASHCAM. We did not try for it.
But it seems like that kind of that 18 in the UK now, it's probably similar in the States with the R rating is sort of kind of almost like a badge of honor. That it can communicate to the audience about the kind of experience that they're going to have that they wouldn't have from a 15 or whatever the.
Actually, it is a good question. I think if this was released in the 80s, this might have been part of the video nasties.
Yeah,
Mary Whitehouse might have she would have banned us, wouldn't she?
Yeah.
We'd be on that list.
I love that look for you.
Yeah.
It's definitely got without obviously we can't go near spoilers, but it's definitely got scenes that I think. I've watched a lot of horror films in my life, and I realise I haven't seen this sort of thing in a lot of modern horror films. Like
British modern horror films as well.
Yeah, I was a bit like, fuck! I did swear quite a lot, and I was watching it by myself, and my wife was upstairs trying to sleep, and I was like, fuck! And it did make me really go, I mean, I loved it, but I am definitely going to go and seek out watching this with a crowd.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Watching a crowd of people who are into the vibe of this movie would just be amazing.
And who have no idea.
Yeah.
The less you know about this film, the better.
Really
I think. Yeah, don't look at spoilers.
Yeah, no. I mean, I've not actually watched your trailer yet, but I mean, how much does a trailer give away?
Well, that's a good question because Blumhouse trailers often give away the entire ending of the film, but. We actually had a little bit of say, or I mean, we gave our comments on the trailers and stuff. So, and not just the only note that we ever had was let's not give away too much in the trailer. Let's keep it ambiguous. And they delivered. I think the trailer is really good. It doesn't give anything away.
Just shows you it's going to be a batshit film, basically.
Yeah.
It's impactful.
I mean, and almost in a way, if I did start saying the things that are in it, which I'm not going to. But it's almost like they're to be seen to be believed anyway. It's basically, I mean, I just keep going back to the word mental. It's just what? I mean, I almost want to say, I mean, another part of your team you've got back in is James Swanton, who we see for about 5 really important seconds on Host. Probably more than that. But again, just. Talking about his contribution is almost at risk of spoiling it, but he's in it.
He's
absolutely made my skin crawl. Just amazing.
Well, he was in Salt as well. I don't know if you saw the short Salt that we did, but he's in that as well. You notice there's a type of character he plays in every single one of these things. He is just the best at doing that, and that there was really no other person we would rather use. And his contribution to horror in general, British horror, can't be understated. Like in decades to come, people will look back at the James Swanton Monsterverse, the Swantonverse, and just be like, this guy did everything. This guy had it all.
There'll be panels with him and a massive retrospective of
God,
all the amazing horrible things he's portrayed on screen.
Oh yeah,
it's just superb. But it's and I love that you've got everyone from all your host cast are in there, which is obviously Gemma features a bit more prominently as Stretch's girlfriend, but it's just great seeing them. I mean, was it just a sort of case of you were just right? Did you put it together quite quickly after Host, and you were just like, right, you could do this, you could do that, you can be the flight attendant, you can be the bride, you can be the, all the different people that are in it, without spoiling it too much, just to sort of get them in it.
I mean, like from my perspective, it was like a month after Host came out that we started developing this film, so it was still very early days, and I only met Jed once and Rob twice, I think. So we were just really high on fumes. I feel like from the exhilaration of it all, and it was like, let's just, how can we do a testament to Host and also do something completely new that people might not be expecting us to do. So we, you just try to tread that balance, I suppose.
Yeah. And also the most important thing is they're our friends, and working with your friends is the best thing you could do. So getting them all involved again it's just natural. It's just natural.
Yeah, well, as we see, we feel like they're our mates as well, just from watching them all on Host, because they're just just the whole. That's one of the magics of Host. It's not just the scariness; it's the human factor, and it's just. But you've worked with them on your computer game projects recently, and I've see on Twitter when you were filming all that. And is there more in the pipeline?
With the girls,
Are you? I wonder if are you. Because host is Zoom and this was live streaming. Do you think you've got one more, maybe to make it round it off as a trilogy, make it one more of this modern technology ones? Are you maybe scared of the success of these? You might get stuck being people that have to use modern technology, or you're going to break out.
Nah.
Yeah,
I mean, nice problem to have, obviously.
I think between us, we have enough movie ideas to last us an entire lifetime. There's no sign of them running out, and as long as people keep funding it and letting us do it, then we'll do it. And just regarding the 5 host ladies, like you'll see, like even later on this year, besides the video game, there's something else that I did with Shudder, part of Scare Package 2. They're in that as well, all 5 ladies. All 5, actually first place you saw those 5 ladies in that formation together is in a short that I did before Host called Multiplex. So that's when those 5 came together, and then not too long afterwards they all popped up in Host. And they obviously just work together so well. I'm with you guys, it's brilliant. Well, I was just going to say, I was just reading as well some industry news. You've been picked up for everywhere in Cannes, Japan, Baltic states, all over the place. So it looks like DASHCAM's going amazing. I mean, you must be, again, you're on these fumes, Gemma. I mean, it's from Host was it 2 years ago Host came out? Yeah.
And now DASHCAM.
July 2020.
Yeah. And now DASHCAM's going all over the planet. Because so was that just a Blumhouse person who was at Cannes? None of you guys have been out there?
Well, it's just a sales company that obviously Blumhouse got on board to sell it to all the various different regions. We saw it with Host, like it started off in Shudder and just Shudder territories. Then we got a French sales company involved called Charades, who just sold it across the world. So it was all over the world. The one thing I'm going to be looking forward to is Host was called all different stuff around the world. In Russia, it was called Astral Online. In Mexico, it was called Don't Pick Up the Phone. It's crazy. So I wonder what DASHCAM's going to be called. Don't Get in the Car. In like Peru or something.
Yeah. Wasn't it? Was it Japan? They just called it Zoom.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is like, okay.
Yeah, I know. It kind of makes sense, but I mean, Host is just the perfect name for that because it has multiple connotations.
Yeah. No, absolutely brilliant. Well, it's been a pleasure meeting you guys. Seeing you guys again.
Likewise, Ian.
On Zoom
and Kirsty.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you guys.
Sure, we'll have a catch up when we can go all spoilerific. Overview of DASHCAM. Later on, and it's a run. But yeah, we'll run and get this edited and out in time for June the 3rd.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
Just around the corner. But yeah, brilliant to see you again. See you on Twitter.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks, Kirsty.
Yes, thank you. Bye. So that was me and Kirsty talking to Gemma and Jed.
Yes, weren't we good?
Yes,
You're fantastic.
Amazing. And I totally forgot to mention. As soon as we got off the call, I was like, "Oh, I meant to mention the." Have you guys watched the credits?
Yeah.
The absolute filth that comes out of. I mean, Annie Hardy's, but for Jed and Gemma, it's particularly graphic. It's a special honor. It's I did write down what it was, but I wouldn't be able to say it anyway. But it's absolute filth. So yeah, definitely one that's worth staying in the cinema for.
Yes.
Just to she's how much I don't think she's pretending that much, Annie Hardy. She seems like a very strange and compelling woman. And her mind's in the gutter. But yeah, we're now in spoiler territory. So if you're still listening, then you're an idiot if you haven't seen the film, because you really should see this film unspoiled. But the trailer doesn't really give too much away, but even that tells you the tone of what you're going into, in that it doesn't stay quiet for long. It's not like you need to sort of say to somebody, yeah, stick with it, because it's like really quiet for 2 hours and it goes mad. It's literally quite mad quite quickly, isn't it? But even her energy is kind of a bit frenetic anyway. Like so what did we think about her what did we think about the movie, the stuff we can talk about, like the fact that it was the parasite and something was possessed, something was infecting these people, and
I really
love sort of zombie movie.
I love the kind of sort of Lovecraftian turn that it took. I kind of, again, for me, one of the sort of strengths of it is that there's no exposition. There's nobody explaining anything what's going on.
Yeah,
that's actually
No.
Because you're going to think in that kind of social media sort of format, like she wouldn't know what's going on. So why do we get an explanation either?
No. It was like Cloverfield in that regard, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Cloverfield, you kind of, I'd heard, it's a sort of Lovecraftian thing, and then you watch it, and it's lots of people running around.
Yeah.
and the Statue of Liberty being flung around, and I'm like, when's this going to be Lovecraftian? Because it seems to be Godzilla. But I also liked it. But it was very much basically an action movie. And this has a sort of similar, although much gorier, sort of vibe to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing special effects happening very quickly. There were a lot of scares when I think of it. There were a lot of jumpy scares. But the levitation in the tree.
Out of the water. The one out of the water.
Yeah, that was really good.
Oh yeah, the one out of the water. That was a creepy one.
And
that
some of the I mean, the fact that her lips were, when he took her face mask off and her lips were sort of sewn shut, was a pretty grim thing to see.
I particularly like the moment where it's actually sort of driving away at the end and thinking that she's going to go away, and then we sort of see Angela
in the running,
catching up with her, and that like that was properly creepy, kind of well constructed moment. You just saw this looming figure.
Yeah.
Drive faster.
Yeah. No, there were loads of cool stuff. I mean, I really liked the sort of white fingers and the parasite, as he's called, that James Swanton was playing. Is just creepily double jointed, like you need from these things. And I assume that was Teddy being set on fire on the bonnet.
Well, that was my favorite effect, or the bit that makes you go, oh my god, because I think maybe I had looked away slightly, but so there's the crash, and then everyone's kind of doing the thing where everyone comes to, and then it took me a few seconds to realize that it was through, he'd come out of his car through their windscreen, and I was going, oh my god, and then he was on fire. I was like, but I found that particularly rough to watch, I think. All the rest of it I was just like, but that
no, and it was
awful.
But I did swear a lot in a good way. I did go fuck.
Yeah, me too. I kept going fuck. Oh shit.
Like when Angela's mother gets her wrist snapped in
the thing.
That made me that got a reaction from me. None of it scared me, but it was like, I can imagine watching this This is why we want to see it in a cinema. We want to hear that brilliant ooh
Yeah.
noise that horror crowds make,
Yeah.
like we're watching a boxing match. But it's like ooh, and a bit of an applause for some.
It's obviously the kind of, you know, the sort of slightly more kind of, you know, visceral body stuff at the beginning, which is like, you know, I think for me that kind of reveal was like, oh, okay, this is the kind of film. This is kind of,
This is where we are, is it?
This is where we are. But it was, you know, kind of really affecting as well, and that sort of, you know, I haven't kind of processed it all yet, really, but I'm sure that there will be sort of discussions around, you know, the kind of, you know, some of the kind of casting decisions around kind of racial dynamics around, you know, and how that might, you know, kind of play. But I did, you know, kind of when we first get introduced to her, and she's, you know, this kind of, you know, clearly vulnerable.
To Angela.
Yeah, Angela, the kind of really kind of very vulnerable elderly woman who seems, you know, dementia,
gone,
and then just, you know, it, and then giving her to, you know, to Annie, you know, who is proved herself not to be particularly, you know, kind of compassionate or caring character. And I just, like, at that point, for me, that's when the sort of the dread of the horror started to kick in. Not only that question of what is this character going to be, and in what way, you know, she can be the source of the horror, but also how is she going to be, you know, kind of neglected or abused, or, you know.
That's the side of the film I'd like to watch it again anyway, because it was a bit of a rush. It was, you know, it was very fast, and but I'd like to sort of pick apart exactly why did she give her a load of money to take?
Yeah,
she just fobbing her off? Was she just getting rid of someone she couldn't be bothered with?
No.
Was it a setup? Because I've just been looking at reviews, and I think it's been getting not bad reviews, but I don't think it's been getting as high marks as I think it should do. And I think that's because people are watching it in a rush, and they're watching it once.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not taking it in. It's quite a lot to take in one sitting.
Yeah. And I also think probably, you know, there's a clear sense of whilst trying to be clearly genre in terms of what it's doing, I think there's also a kind of sense of trying not to play by the rules as well. That will frustrate a great many people. I think probably there's going to be more love for it within the, you know, kind of horror community like us, rather than general critics.
Yeah, but I think that's true of most good horror films, isn't it?
Yeah.
If they pleased everybody, then they'd probably have failed as a horror movie.
Yeah.
You know, this has got an 18 certificate in the UK, which is quite hard to get now. You know, without being pornographic, because that seems to be the only thing we give 18s out for now. But yeah, it's so it's impressive in that way, and it's an old school, and it'll be watched over and over again. Sometimes you want a movie that delivers in that way, in that I want to show this to somebody and it'll freak them out, and they'll, you know, the right audience. This will be great to go. Oh, what should we watch? Have you not seen DASHCAM? Oh man, you know, in a few years, we'll be like, oh man, let's watch DASHCAM, because it's fun, and it'll be, and you know, it's fun, but horrible. It's not like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is just horrible. This is a good party horror.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And because of that lack of sort of exposition, there isn't a really, you know, it is, I think it'll probably do quite well on, you know, teenage sleepovers, in that
absolutely.
you have to spend, you know, time paying attention to, you know, kind of every detail in order to kind of follow.
I'm looking forward to showing this to my kids, actually, because this will well, because if I show them stuff and I'm like, this is a really classic horror film, they go, oh, boring, The Exorcist is so shit. Like, I tried to watch The Exorcist with them the other day, and they said it was too boring. It was too much for them. Like, the boring. They didn't get anywhere with it. They just found it boring. Whereas if I show them this, I showed them Host, and they loved it. And they love Paranormal Activity and that sort of stuff. And if I show them this, they'll be impressed. Whereas, you know, I'll have to wait to show them Don't Look Now and The Exorcist and cerebral horror movies that Guardian readers like.
Yeah, well, part of you sort of saying that kind of makes me wonder about whether, you know, kind of to what extent the response to it is a sort of generational thing. That, you know, in some ways, because of its sort of social media presentation and because of its lack of exposition and lack of sort of, you know, kind of developed characterization around Annie in terms of why is she this way and where does she come from and where does she go and whatever. It's kind of, you know, it's sort of, you know, it's TikTok, isn't it? And, you know, it's just, it's what it is. This is what I'm presenting to you, and we're just going to ignore that other stuff that we would normally get.
Yeah, I was trying to work out afterwards if making, because she's a very believable character, but I was trying to work out if narratively she'd been built into what you know, if she hadn't been a Trump supporting anti-vaxxer, would there have been much difference to the film? Because it's someone, I mean, on the surface it would have been different because she would have been a different character, but in terms of the vehicle of the film, which is you need someone who's driving around with a zombie in the, you know, with a parasite woman in the back and all the shenanigans that happen, do you need, you know, Annie Hardy wearing a Trump hat, believing in all sorts of shit? Did that play? I mean, in a weird way, it reminded me of all, you know, all the Hydra stuff came out when there was that sort of strain of anti-vaxxers that it was this thing of an alien that was being injected into us with AstraZeneca went viral in the sort of QAnon community, and it kind of made me go, it was the sort of start of this kind of what if people like Annie were right? Is that kind of what the sort of fantasy? So they're kind of taking the piss out of them, but at the same time going, what if they're right? What if this is what happens when you're vaccinated?
I think for all of her, all of her obvious political ideas would, you know, is making me sort of recoil from her quite a lot. But then tied up in her political ideas, it seemed to me to be mainly centered around this is all bullshit, and that's the attitude that I think we kind of have while we're watching the film. This sort of this is bullshit. What is happening? What is that? What is that? This is ridiculous. This can't be happening. And her ability to brush things off and to collapse laughing at a couple of points after something horrendous has just happened. She starts laughing. Yeah. Sort of it drags us through the film, and I think that's why what we were saying before. We kind of end up rooting for her a bit because we need a fuck you attitude to get through all of it, because it's escalating and escalating. Even though her general personality is abrasive as hell, someone who wasn't that abrasive, they wouldn't have got that far. So we kind of need her to be going to the world, because where would we be? We wouldn't have an hour and 10 minutes film.
Yeah, her ignorance is her armor. It's a superpower.
Yeah. She's a much more believable final girl, isn't she, than you know, who are, you know, demure and, you know, and innocent and, you know, well that we didn't know they had from the beginning. Whereas with her, it's really clear that she, you know, is prepared to go against people, is prepared to kind of fight for what she, you know, thinks is right, or you know, whatever. You
prepared
know,
to have a scrap.
I've never quite believed that being on the cheerleader squad means that you're probably going to be have the best survival skills. Well, I imagine you're probably quite fit, but good
cardio.
So as a final girl, she was really interesting in saying as in she's totally believable, but then they kind of, instead of making her, oh yeah, it's good to see somebody who's like one of us, who's like the sort of woman who would be like into horror. Oh fuck, she's a Trumper.
Yeah, she's horrible.
just to mess with our heads. But it was funny, you know, Gemma and Jed were very quick to say she's not into Trump. Like so secure of sort of our audience that they assumed we'd all be offended by it, that no one watched them again. Oh cool, she's one of us, and I like horror movies too. Because I bet in America, you know, you just have to look at the fan community and see how many people get pissed off by black Doctor Who's or women flying spaceships in Star Wars or Star Trek, to realize America really is divided even in the fan community. It's not like this safe little thing where everyone thinks the same, even in horror. But anyway, but yeah, I thought she was. I was just trying to work out in my head how much she was, who she was as a character played into. But I think what's weird as well, because when you think about every other final girl, they're almost just blank slates, aren't they? They don't have a lot going on.
Not much personality.
Stuff is put onto them.
Yeah.
They are ciphers, and they're stuck in a situation. And in the best of them, in a way, Annie Hardy's got more. The fictional Annie Hardy has got more in common with Jamie Lee Curtis, in that they are, her character in Halloween, as in they are three-dimensional women in a horrible situation, and you kind of believe that they survive or don't survive or fight back. They're not, so they're both not just, the blonde cheerleader surviving to the last reel because of plot armor.
Yeah, because it needs one. Kirsty, before you were talking about where you felt you flipped in terms of and then now I'm rooting for her. Like, where was that in the film for you? Because I can't figure out where it was for me at all.
I'm not
I need to
really sure, but I think, thinking about it now, so when they get to the creepy funfair place,
yes,
and something happens to her, then she ends up in a teacup. And what's his face? What's his name? The guy. I'm terrible for names and I'm tired.
Hammer.
Hammer.
So he does the thing that she does at the beginning, kind of gobbles in his hand and smacks her awake.
Oh yeah.
Me, I think that might have been the point where I sort of went, okay, she's broken, she's put herself back together, and she's just got this endless fight, and she kind of travels through all of this with a kind of like you said, a kind of cynical sort of disbelief around everything. But it's just, it's her tenacity and her drive, and that it's really compelling, and there's not a huge character development in terms of, like, she's not, you don't get the sense by the end of it that she's kind of broken psychologically by it, and or has found this deep well, and is going to rise into the challenge. She's just dealing with everything, and so, like, at the beginning of the film, that quality is really, it's not something we're kind of looking up to, I think. So, when she goes into the restaurant and she's just like, I am wearing a mask, it's an invisible mask, and gets into physical, kind of disagreement with the whoever's in the shop. And then, when she's in the takeaway, whatever, she's eating the pickled eggs or whatever.
Yeah.
But that was really kind of like, I just want to see her get hurt. Like, I don't like her. I think that kind of, just that sort of level of tenacity as things get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And something, it's like, you think, oh God, obviously I'm never going to find myself in that situation, but I'd want that kind of,
maybe it was to teach you as a modern 21st century woman, Kirsty. This is how misogynistic, nerdy men used to feel about watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre in the 70s. I hate that woman. She's so pretty. She'd never kiss me. I want her to die.
It's like that with that one, actually. And I've thought about Texas Chainsaw in relation to this, because I remember when I saw that film that I did want that woman to die. I don't remember what the character was. Just more because she was clearly being put in, she was clearly, oh, look at me running around with long blonde hair and with a white shirt without a bra on. And it was just sort of, misogynistic torture of her. I was just like, I just want you to die because you're annoying me. Because of the constant screaming.
That's a that's an interesting feminist point of view. I want you to die because you're such a cliche.
When that was my first reaction. I think my feminist credentials and viewpoints were still forming, and this is when I was in my 20s. But it, I think that there's a sort of sense of wanting her to die because she's too annoying to live, and when she doesn't at the end, for God's sake. And then kind of sort of Annie Hardy in this. Oh, hold on. So something in that is something in my bathroom I'm not going to look at.
No, I think
Was
you
that
should
you?
stay
Was it? I
exactly
thought
where
that
you
was. I
are.
thought that was.
Please keep that in the episode as a sort of
Yeah.
something's just it's falling off the wall in my bathroom. I'm not at all
Yeah.
freaked out.
Well, we already had my computer desk collapsed earlier, which is why I said fuck randomly a few minutes ago.
Well, no,
So it's Stella's idea now.
Stella's.
Stella's go next.
Yeah, we're all suddenly like, oh shit.
Yeah. What's that behind you, Stella?
Books I haven't read.
You're haunted by books you haven't read. How did the Mein Kampf get there? What? Anyway,
yeah. So she's like the anti-Chainsaw Massacre woman, I think.
Yeah. No, I thought I'd watch a sequel to the Annie Hardy, the Adventures of Annie Hardy, if there was a way of having that. But I also thought another thing about it was, like Host was a document of the pandemic times.
Mm-hmm.
I almost thought it earned its place just by that scene you mentioned when she's being an asshole about masks in the coffee shop. And in a way, I kind of thought, well, just having her this sort of person makes us go, in 50 years we'll go, oh yeah, I remember those arseholes coming out. I remember QAnon. I remember when people were so into Trump and it divided the nation, and then people wouldn't wear fucking masks, but they would carry guns. It's so in a way, it's just a sort of, we've all seen. I've been shouted at in supermarkets by slightly unhinged people. I don't know about you.
For wearing a mask. Yeah, me too.
And so the middle of bloody rural Cheshire, I was in a co-op, and somebody went bloody sheep.
Yeah, I was told to take my muzzle off.
Yeah.
But why? So they can see me mouthing "fuck you" at you. What would you prefer?
Yeah. So in another way, it's testament to the strange times we've been living through. I wonder how it's. I wonder. Obviously we all want the pandemic to start easing anyway, but I wonder if one of the downsides to it is maybe this film has emerged not in the ideal conditions, whereas Host was literally, we're all just finding out what Zoom is. Fuck me, they've managed to make us scared of Zoom. Our which is just perfect horror movie. I think like we just did then when things started falling off in your kitchen. That made me think, oh, we're now in a horror movie, which is weird when we're just on computers staring at each other. That we still think of ourselves as being in a horror movie space in these little boxes.
I mean, on the whole, that kind of that's just the setup to the movie, isn't it? Really. That it's the excuse to get to characterize her as being sort of anti-establishment, and it's a way of getting her to England in in a way that sort of feels threatening. But then I think once we're out on the road and she's got Angela, then we're kind of beyond that anyway. So I think like that it will date the film, obviously.
Yeah.
Just in the way that kind of anything dates if it's got a contemporary reference in it. I think the main sort of action isn't really, kind of, it isn't linked to COVID the way that Host was more kind of defined by it.
Yeah.
No. But the whole scenario of Host you would never have come up with. The scenario of a Host would be a science fiction premise. Right up until the moment it wasn't.
Yeah.
It'd be and then if Host had been made before pandemic, the script, people would have gone, I don't think you need this science fiction element of a pandemic. It's not adding anything to the horror.
No.
But because it's a historical period.
Yeah.
But already DASHCAM is like, I imagine the marketing people are having a bit of a harder time just going, oh, it's set in the pandemic, which maybe people are less. It's less now. It's more, that's that thing we already want to forget about.
Yeah, people are trying to move on. Well, have moved on.
But I think horror viewers though sort of instinctively kind of are less perhaps put off by those kind of things. That sort of, you go to watch a horror because you're willing to sort of be put in unpleasant places, and unpleasant places in a whole range of different ways. And so, this film might sort of seem not dated, but sort of a little bit backwards looking in terms of its setting. But I don't think it's for most people who would want to see this film. I don't think that's necessarily.
No. But I almost think in 10 years, it maybe will be more effective because it's set back then. It was made back then, and we're every so often we'll be used to seeing something set in the pandemic. I wonder when we'll first see the first piece of fiction set deliberately in the pandemic, like we saw the first 9/11 movies, and when are we going to see something that has decided to set itself in these times?
Oh, it'll be something about like the development of the vaccine, won't it? Some sort of.
Well, I suppose so, yeah. But
the story of the heroes of and
God, yeah,
kind of fairly sentimental and romanticized, kind of the suffering and the emergency services and all that. And not that I'm saying they don't deserve that, but I think that will be the way that it goes, won't it?
So, what else have we got to talk about with this movie?
So the ending, the credits, obviously we talked about before. I was just really interested. I mean, obviously it doesn't tie to the story, but it kind of does in the fact that it's still Annie Hardy. She's still in the car. She's still rapping. She's clearly in LA, and there isn't a clear sense of where that is in relation to the rest of the film. But I just like the fact that she just keeps going either getting compost or or dropping something off. I found myself really intrigued by the fact that she, kind of twice in that kind of stops and gets out of the car, goes, does something, and then comes back.
She's, multitasking. She's a modern woman.
But what are you doing? Like, is it irrelevant? Is it? I don't know. But it made me want to sit there and watch it all until there wasn't anything else to watch, because I wasn't convinced the story wasn't yet over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the credits are very entertaining.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But again, like you were saying about the scariness factor, there definitely wasn't any, wow, you're so freaked out now. I think they know they haven't made a film that's going to freak you out, because they didn't just go, right, cut to black, and they went, here's some really funny credits.
Yeah,
it's
comedy at the end.
It's a fun horror movie rather than a scary horror. Well, Host is really fun as well, but in its own different way. But it's not oh my god, I'm going to have to sleep with the lights on. It's fun. It's wow, that was cool. Did you see her lips sewn together? High five. kind of thing. Oh, did you see that bit where her wrist snapped?
I wondered as well about, again, a relevant thought, but whether or not if you're going to, so obviously there's the Ariana Grande tattoo, which becomes a kind of important point, whether or not you have to pay Ariana Grande to use her name or indeed her likeness as part of a tattoo as part of the film, and if so, like
how much?
Yeah, how much? and like, why did her people go, oh yeah, no, this is a fine use of my image.
Well, she's in Scream Queens. She's Chanel number 2, I think, in Scream Queens.
Yeah.
So she gets killed by the Red Devil in Scream Queens. So she does have a teeny tiny horror connection.
I sadly had never heard of her name till the terrorist bombings in Manchester, because I'm an old man. But from what I've seen of her in interviews and things, she seems quite sound. So I imagine if they accidentally hadn't got permission, she'd go, no, don't fucking sue people over some bullshit like that, is what I would hope.
She's quite funny in Don't Look Up.
Yeah, I was about to say,
plays a version of herself in Don't Look Up. She's good in that.
Yeah.
So maybe she was just like, yeah, cool,
Yeah. Oh yeah, cool. I love Toast. Yeah. There's a question we should have asked. Anyway, it's weird because obviously must be even more weird for you because you talk, Rob, Kirsty, but they feel like our people who doing really well.
Yeah.
Even though I've never met any of them in real life, but then I've never met either of you two in real life.
Yeah.
So, what is real life these days?
22, isn't it? We don't know in real life. In this format.
Yeah.
You're only ever going to see this part of me. Never going to see anything else.
If I ever do meet you, you actually Davros.
I only got one leg.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Like
Cool.
a good way to end it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
on
So,
that
so
note.
before we wrap up, what are you all doing horror wise? Are any of you started watching Stranger Things yet?
No.
I've been because it's half term and I've been looking after my child. I've watched a lot of Stranger Things while he's been on the PS4, and it's something we'll have to talk about later. We'll have to do a Stranger Things episode.
I've only watched season 1 and 2, then I was getting a bit bored.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I love season 3.
Season 3 is better. Honestly. I was lagging a bit with season 2, and season 3 much better.
All right.
Season 3 is brilliant. It's all got sort of the body horror and that is amazing.
Well, I'm trying to
It's all
persuade
sort
my
of
daughter
melt
to watch
movies
it,
and flesh demons and
yeah. I'm trying to get my daughter to watch it. I'm trying to get her interested in it. So we might start again from the beginning.
I definitely watched season 3, and then 4. I've seen half of it. Seems to be much scarier actually.
Yeah.
Season 4.
All right. I'll watch the good thing.
Watch it, and then it seems to be. I think this is definitely going to be the end as well. So it's finished.
Well, that's handy.
So yeah, so you're not committing to something that's going to go on for too long.
All right.
But that's cool. Well, hopefully Dan, if you're listening, because you actually listened to an episode of it being in it. So hopefully we've done you proud, Dan.
Yeah.
And see you next time. Cool.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to And Now the Podcast Starts. Produced and released by Ambidextrous Solutions Limited. Presented by Ian Winterton, Kirsty Warrow, and Dr. Stella Gaynor. With special guests Jed Shepherd and Gemma Hurley. Special thanks to Greg Hume for our original theme music, and to Brian Gorman for our original artwork. All dialogue and music clips from films, TV shows, and trailers are used for the purposes of criticism in the spirit of fair dealing as defined in UK law and fair use as defined in US law. No copyright infringement is intended. Please visit our home on the web, www.andnowpodcast.com, for more content and contact details. Or visit our Facebook pages at AndNowPod or at Lee Cushing Pod. Follow us on Twitter at AndNowPodcast or at Lee Cushing Podcast. If you'd like to donate to us, please visit patreon.com/AndNowPodcast. And now the podcast stops.